Hello everyone, I am Rebecca and I'm a blogger over at reviewsfeed.net. It's mad to think a little bit later this month I will have been blogging for 9 years, which is a long time. And it all kind of started out from me picking up books more often after kind of, some life events, and rediscovering reading and then wanting to find an audience to talk about that with. So yeah, how weird how these things kind of happen and stick. Now YouTube is pretty new to me, so if you've not met me before, hi, nice to meet you, and I hope to come and introduce yourself in the comments. Let me know who you are, what you like reading and what kind of content you want to see. So it's a new method of me kind of talking about the books I want to pick up and read with you all. That's not replacing my blog by any means. I'm juggling both because I'm an overachiever, okay, but never mind. So enough of that, let's get into what I have picked up this week. My first kind of priority read of this week was my historical fiction read of Storm of Mercia by MJ Porter. Now that's because I had a review obligation for this book, which I reviewed on Thursday the 2nd of April. Which has just gone, and I really enjoyed this historical fiction, but that's not really a surprise. This is the 9th installment of the series, which is quite a lot already, but I've also stuck with this series since it started coming out in 2022, and I have reviewed all bar one book for the kind of publication release blog tour. The one I missed is purely because I'm a donut and I wasn't checking my emails very well, so if that doesn't tell you how much I have enjoyed this series so far, then I don't know what will. But if you go and check out my review on my blog, I can't properly link, but I'll provide the URL in my description. And if you can go and check that out. If you're a huge fan of historical fiction, we're set in 10th century England. We have Vikings, we have intertribal wars within England as a whole, between like England and Wessex and all that kind of thing. But we follow a protagonist called Isel who starts the series kind of determined to become a healer over anything. And unfortunately, life events take him down a very different path. But his kind of aim in life is to kind of do the best for everybody, protect those he can, but also look after those that mean the most to him. So it's a very interesting book. It's full of action, lots of travel, and this particular book is a little bit different in that where previous books have had a lot of land-based travel, Isel gets stuck on an oar in a ship without any further spoilers. So we get a bit of seafaring going on in this book, so it's a little bit different, and I really enjoyed that. Moving on to my kind of current reads, I'm delighted that I can now re-pick up 1984 by George Orwell. Now, I started this and I had to put this down a couple of weeks ago because I had review obligations for Rose Red at the end of March, and then had to jump pretty much straight into Storm of Mercia by MJ Porter. So now those are done and my time is a little bit more my own again. I am going back to finish the final 2/3 of 1984. Now, I have read this book before. This is actually my third read. I read it once at school, hated it. I read it again in my own time, loved it. So it just goes to show. But I'm now rereading it because I want to next pick up a retelling of kind of the same world and written from the perspective of Julia as opposed to Winston. So in terms of refresher, I've actually only just re-met Julia, if you like. We're a third of the way through the book. Winston has just bumped into Julia. So I am kind of excited to get back to kind of the core roots of the story, and then I can pick up Julia by Sandra Newman and enjoy this very different perspective on the same world. Briefly touching on other books I kind of hope to get to next week. Probably towards the end of the week because Julia's not a small book. But I have a library loan for Looking at Women, Looking at War. Now, it's not due back until the 27th of April, so it's not going to be a desperate rush, but also I don't want to leave it too late. Plus, I also intended to read this in March. It was one of my March GBR carryovers. So if you want to go and take a look at my April TBR in full, I will give you a link up here so you can see what else I'm going to be reading this month. But I'm looking forward to kind of reading Victoria's story. If you have not heard of this book, then it's about a writer based in Ukraine who, after Russia invade, starts kind of documenting what's happening and becoming almost like a war journalist. Now, sadly, she did suffer injuries as a result of a Russian missile and then sadly passed away. So this is incomplete, but it's been published as far as she got. And obviously with it being quite topical, albeit Iran and Israel and the cost of petrol probably dominating the narrative right now, this is still ongoing and it's still fairly recent history for us. So I'm kind of keen to find out more about what's going on. As much as I don't like reading the news, I think I'm going to enjoy it in this kind of format. So watch this space for more thoughts on looking at women, looking at war. In terms of audiobook listens, I have picked up and finished The Astral Library this week. Well, I say I picked it up this week. It was probably a carryover from last week. It was a carryover from last week. I'm lying. But anyway, I finished The Astral Library technically on Friday, but I fell asleep for the last hour, so I had to re-download it for, to go back and recap the last hour. And I really enjoyed this audio. So I picked it up as it was a 2026 release, and I kind of want to feature some more kind of topical books than I normally do. And I've originally talked about this book in my 2026 highly anticipated releases video. So that was released in February. So I picked this up pretty quickly, and I've got another couple coming up. It's either this month or next month. It might be this month. I think there's two. There's the sequel to The Midnight Library actually coming up next. And then, well, I say sequel, it's in the same realms of, I don't know if it directly follows on. And then there's another one. But anyway, go check out that video. Because they will very likely feature on my May TBR. So anyway, back to The Astral Library. I picked this up because it reminded me of The Midnight Library in terms of its overarching format. And whilst that is somewhat true, it is its own completely unique story. So we have this astral library, kind of spiritual library where people who are desperate turn to escape into their favourite books, basically. So we get to dabble into the likes of Sherlock Holmes, Anne of Green Gables, Jane Eyre as well, amongst many other titles. I also loved the game. There's gaming references. There's like an equivalent for gaming people. And I really loved the Skyrim references, but I've sunk far too many hours into Skyrim. But there we go. So it's a fun book, and it's a fun book that it dabbles into a lot of other known titles in this genre. But also if you like art and gaming, they also kind of feature in this as well. So it was a fun book. I really enjoyed this one. I'm glad I picked it up, and I'm looking forward to sharing my review with you all. So with that audiobook now finished, yesterday I started listening to a book that came out of my TBR jar in my April monthly TBR video, and that is Onyx and Ivory. Now, I actually wanted to start with 50 Things You Need to Know About British History, and I had hoped to pick this up in audio format, just because I would probably find it easier to listen to than I would to read. But unfortunately, it's not an audiobook. So with the books that came out of the jar, one of them I already own a digital copy of, and the other I've figured out I can borrow from my library. So that left Onyx and Ivory. So I picked that one up, that was fine, and I really quite like the narration, so this is working out well for me so far. So what I'm going to do is prioritise this listen, because I deliberately want to break up Onyx and Ivory with my read-along of Sarah J Maas's Crown of Midnight, just because I don't want to go too hard into the romantasy genre all at once. So that's going to be my priority listen for this week, and hopefully I can update you more on that one in my video next week. If you're still with me, thanks for listening. I'm hoping you have heard of, if not read, any of the books I have featured in today's video. If you're currently reading something, let me know in the comments what that is, or any books you're planning on picking up soon. Coming up on YouTube next week, I am just about to record my thoughts on After the Forest by Kel Woods, which is a dark fantasy fairy tale retelling. So I hope you are interested and can check out this one. If not, I then hope to see you in my next weekly update, where I'll catch you up on my current reads, and hopefully it inspires you to pick up something this week. Until then, bye for now.